This time I'd like to call our meeting to order. Thank you for coming and sharing with us this evening. Do note this is the official meeting of the Northampton County Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners have certainly adopted a mission statement. I'll not read it to you. It's on the wall behind us. Vision statement likewise. We know that whenever we come to meet, we come for a purpose, and that purpose is to do all we can to make Northampton County a better place for all the citizens in Northampton County. So after noting that we are in this our official meeting, I now call this meeting to order. This moment, I'd like for all of us to just take a moment, silence, if you would, a moment of silence. Thank you so much. At this time, we do note we stay in, and we're part of the United States of America, and we have with us our flag. So if you don't mind, please stand with us as we give allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Board members, you have in your hands and been sent to you prior to the meeting. If you had any questions or anything that you needed to ask, you had an opportunity to inform the county manager and staff of any questions that you have. You have the agenda. At this time, are there any anything that you desire to include, anything that you desire that we exclude from the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the agenda.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
A second.
Moved and properly second that we shall approve the agenda for this June the 5th, 2023. Are you ready for your question? If so, all in favor, let it known by the usual sign aye.
Aye.
I Faulkner.
Aye.
I Broadnax Taylor.
Ayes have it. Motion is carried. Thank you so much. At this time, we do have a conflict of interest statement that we ask our vice chair if you give that to us tonight. All of us might understand that we cannot have any conflict of interest with the items that's on our agenda.
In accordance with the rules of procedures adopted by this board in section 153A44 of the North Carolina General Statutes, it is the duty of every member present to vote on all matters coming before the board, unless there is a conflict of interest as determined by the board or by law. Does any board member have a conflict of interest with respect to any agenda item coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and the board will consider the matter.
Board members, any board members with conflict of interest?
No conflict. No conflict.
No conflict, Broadnax Taylor. No conflict, Faulkner.
No conflict. Thank you, board members. At this time, do we need to recess this or we need to continue?
Recess the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. Thank you. We will now recess our Board of Commissioners meeting. We go right now into a public hearing on the proposed adopted budget for 23-24. Our county manager, would you like to make a statement before we ask citizens for their input in our budget?
Yes, good evening. Commissioners, I know the last time that we met, you all asked me to look at possible incentive to retain our employees. Specifically, we were looking at the sheriff's department, and what we came up with was they said they can't hear.
They can't hear.
Thank you.
What we came up with was a funding project where we would take the current staffing, measure them over a 12-month period. Any staff that stays, this is the sheriff department staff. Any staff that stays for the full 12 months will then be eligible for a $5,000 bonus. at the end of the fiscal year. So this reserve, if all eligible officers were to be paid out with taxes included, would come up to about $250,000 overall. That would be paid out in July of next year. So it would not impact the current budget. It would impact next year's budget or next year's fiscal cash flow. So that would put some less pressure on this year's budget. And I think that's a more prudent way to go with it. And it allows us to pay an incentive and reward employees for staying with the county. And this would be written up on a project ordinance and can be evaluated every year and changed to either increase, decrease, or do away with it. I've seen this type of system work before. I've been involved with other incentive programs where you pay it, on a quarterly basis. The ones where you pay out early, it's a short return because some people will take the money and run. At least with this option, you have to actually work for a full year to be eligible for the payout. That's the only suggestion I have for this budget. There were no adjustments or changes from the last budget presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you have any questions, you can ask him about the proposal he's given it to us. We said to him in the last work session that we like to have a proposal, how we can make sure that we can have enough officers to run in the sheriff department and in the jail to operate in the county. If I note right now that over 10 right now, sheriff and in the jails, it's right critical right now. I think this is a good incentive, looking at others, counties and what they're doing. We've got to have protection. We just got to have it. There's no question about it. And we're not the only one in this situation. Every county is in this situation. The big ones, the small ones. I just learned the other day that perhaps there's some people working in law enforcement are working in two counties. And they're working in two counties, and that means they're getting two pays. Even when, as far as said, one was a chief in one little town and chief in another town. It is critical. I just wanted you to know we appreciate you bringing that to us. Board members, if you have anything you need to say, right up there. If not, let us at this time note, this is a time that we give the public an opportunity to make comments about the budget for the 23-24. We do know that our attorney will give you the guidelines and make it the suggestions that you make and any remarks that you make. Don't have to be suggestions, could be remarks about the budget. And if you have not signed up, we ask you to please do so. If you plan to make remarks, please note at the end of the table there has forms that you need to fill out and give to our clerk. Our clerk will in turn give them to myself, and I will certainly give them to our attorney. Attorney, at this time, will you give them the rules and regulations for this public hearing?
Thank you, Chairman Tyner. Good evening, everyone. We're in a public hearing now, and when your name is called, you please step forward to the podium. You will have 5 minutes to make public comments on the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. These are public comments only. The board is not going to engage in a dialogue with you. This is not a time to submit questions. These are your comments on the budget that has been proposed for the upcoming fiscal year. Thank you. The first name that I have is Mr. Alan Tashima.
I'd like to thank the board, my fellow citizens and taxpayers of Northampton County. I'd like to also apologize ahead of time that when you see my comments, that's had a little frustration in my behalf when I put this thing together. All the comments and my analysis was based upon a couple things. One, public records, the documents that were handed out to us in previous meetings on the website, and quotes from newspaper articles and things like that. So first of all, I just want to start off as that there seems to be a lot of obfuscation and smoke screens permeate this budget. I asked the question, was there any guidance given to the organizations or people who developed the budget? The answer I got back was there was no guidance, except please look at the county manager's budget message dated 4/11/23. And it talks about the budget was put together by inputs from organizations, people, employees, and things like that. No guidance. So to me, it looks like a free for all, and it's a fox guarding the hen house. No fiscal reality or constraints based upon the current economy or the current what we're going through. There was also another article written by a Miss Holly Taylor in the Roanoke, hopefully I got this pronounced correctly, Chowan News Herald. And it said it's interesting how the county manager obfuscates the issue by saying that we dropped the rate by 6.5% from 90 cents per hundred to 83.835, but increased the budget by 16%. The county manager then noted that revenue neutral tax rate based upon North Carolina General Statute 159-1-1E specifically says that it should be a 0.72 if it's the same if it's the same requirements for the coming year. But there's an outage on this thing that says if you're in the middle of a tax assessment or reassessment, then you're able to do that. Okay, I went through that. And also the article specifically says that the property tax went down from 21.5, went up from 19.6 million in budget year FY23, which we just ended. And the new one goes up to 21.5. Interesting. Okay. But other county documents specifically say the FY23 was a budget of 21,397,856 for tax revenue. What's the difference? It's also interesting that the tax revenues stayed about the same. If you believe the county documents, even with drop of the rate 6.5, and the average or so-called new assessment went up by most of the people around here, 30 to 50% and higher. Is the excess revenue being spent? Numbers, math don't add up. What is the neighborhood adjustment of 2.1, okay, in 2023? When some people have a 1.9, and the previous one that I was told, because I didn't keep my book, was 1.15. What that does is that they are taxing you and putting in a multiplier based upon the neighborhood you live in Northampton County. Okay, you got to remember that because that's going to come up later on. All right, from county documents, FY22 expenditures were $31,634,420, with the property tax revenue at $21,519.33. FY23 estimated expenditures $41,155,279, with property tax revenue of $21,397.856. But they budgeted only $39 million, okay, give or take. So what funds were used to cover the overage? Was the loan taken out? Where was it coming from? Okay, nothing is ever said on that. Then the proposed budget for FY 23 specifically says that it's going to go up to about $45 million with a tax revenue of 21,185, about the same. Okay. That's about a 16% increase in the budget from FY 23 to 24, but it's the same amount of property tax. Interesting. The documents to be signed by the board, which is in the documentation, says that the revenue is going to be 21,507,313. Nominal increase. Don't know where all the money is coming from. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and I'm going to use my wife and I as an example. Okay. Our property tax in 2020, $6,488.26. Property tax in 2021 was $6,452.83. Property tax in 2022 was $7,723.04, based upon we built the new house and we moved in 2020, and the way they do it, they average. Here's the kicker. The property tax of 2023 estimated.
One more minute.
Okay, I'm just gonna finish this up. Was reduced by a rate of 0.835, which is what I use. Our new tax rate for the property is $15,852 because our property went up 121%. The other one, and because I was called, I'm just gonna put down in here that there's also a sewer project line, which is in the documentation, which says, and the chairman's going to sign it out, authorizing somebody to increase your taxes, pay for the sewage line coming from 46 down River Road, connect to Warren County. It also doesn't tell you, but it says, doesn't tell you how much it's going to cost if they do not get any revenue for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, grants, or other location. Okay, a lot of stuff missing from this thing. And then I'll just throw this out, is that since we had a brand new home, we were set at full value. I've heard, and some people have, things such as depreciation. I have never heard of a house depreciate. Thank you very much.
Next one. Thank you, sir.
Bill Myers.
Good evening to all the board members.
And
My name is Bill Myers. My wife Carolyn and I reside in Northampton County. First of all, I'd like to say, I would like to thank all the members of the board for all your hard work, honestly. And also that the job you have makes decisions very difficult at trying to make the county work for our needs. Hopefully, with suggestions from the citizens like us, you'll take that and work together for better communications. Because I really believe that communications is what we're talking about tonight. I don't think it's picking on anybody or saying that you're doing something wrong. One of the statements that I was passed to speak about tonight was, according to the newspaper, which is Allen had addressed, that in May 24th, the county manager noted and said the revenue neutral tax rate would be 72 cents. Now, I'm not sure what neutral is, but I guess the question I have is, if the revenue neutral tax rate is 72 cents and the proposed budget for this coming year calls for a rate of 83 cents. Well, how much does this 0 cents on our tax rate generate the local tax revenue? And how much of the 11% difference generates the local tax dollars based on the new reevaluation with what is planned for the expenditures of the additional generated tax dollars in detail. And someone added this, but why are we being overtaxed? I don't know that we are yet. I don't know that. I think it's a communications thing here. And I sometimes feel like maybe we don't have enough knowledge of how this is all playing out. So again, how much does the budget ordinance for the budget this year appropriate for the general fund, undesignated fund base or balance to balance the coming year budget? And how can we appropriate from an undesignated fund balance when we don't have a audit or have an audit yet for this past year's budget, as I understand? So again, I'm not going to talk for 5 minutes, but what I'd like to say is I think we just need a better communications. And I don't know that that's been in the past, but I think it can be in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Kay Powell.
I go along with what's been said previously in front of me here. I'm concerned about the sewage bed. I was here in March and asked the question of when is the funding for the Lake Gaston sewer project and when is it going to start? I did get a reply from the county attorney, and he said the funding has not been secured today. The county is seeking funds through grants or loan from USDA, but that funding has not been secured today. And this date was May 1st when he contacted me. The county is working on it, as far as I know, and anticipating starting time for the project. Number one, it's contingent upon obtaining the funding. But Chairman Tyner, who the attorney spoke with the week before, said that he anticipated and was hopeful that the project commences towards the latter part of this year. Well, when the announcement of this meeting came out, I looked through all the papers and there was a sheet for an ordinance to be signed starting this project. And I'm going, why are we moving forward with this project without securing the funds? In the ordinance, it's saying that you're taking the funds from the general fund. This is taxpayer money. The public was told that this was not costing the taxpayers. Where is it in the budget? I feel that it's going to cost us a lot. It's my understanding that any type of loan needs to go before the citizens of the county for a vote. I think y'all are putting the cart here ahead of itself. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be anyone that's really for this project. I would love for us to have a public hearing on it, and I go along with Mr. Myers on communicating together. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tracy Patty.
Thank you. And I too would like to thank the county manager and especially your financial folks that are here, because I have spent a number of years in governmental accounting, and I know there's little appreciation for what you do, and there's not much glory there, and it's hard work. I am glad that Mr. Myers brought up the communication issue. I didn't know what to expect tonight when I heard it was a budget hearing, but I have participated in the past in budget forums. And I'd like to ask the board to consider holding some sort of special meeting where the purpose is to educate all of us on your budget. I've submitted some questions in advance to the clerk and county manager, and they have a copy of those. But those are things that I think could be addressed in a budget forum, and it would help, at least we would know. I think there's a lot of emotions building up because we're uncertain of things and we're guessing about things that are there. Things that I would be interested in learning more about are how much of the current year budget is recurring and non-recurring. How much of the proposed budget for the new year is recurring and non-recurring? And then help us understand what those items are that take you from the current year budget to the new proposed budget, because it is a big leap. It might all be absolutely necessary. As Mr. Meyer said, I don't feel like I know, and I'm trying to withhold judgment. But I would like to learn more and be better informed and better educated. And I think that that's something that I know all these requests take up additional time on your part, but I think that time would be well spent and well worth it to help us be more educated about what's in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Richard Rumplick.
Thank you very much for calling me up here. I live in Bridgewater Cove development. It's actually a private development off of River Road. And I've had concerns and problems. I was president of the homeowners association for several years, now standing vice president. And I've had several conversations about the water drainage coming off of Speckle Cove Lane or Speckle Cove Road. And it actually higher elevation than our development on one side. And the water from the ditch runs, because it hasn't been cleaned in 5 years, I believe, maybe more. And I had somebody come out from the county. We sat there, stood there and looked at the ditch, looked at the problems, and what is being not cleaned, the water actually comes out of the ditch. It goes in all the residents on Pier Point Drive on their back into their backyard, floods it. And then when it's done, it runs down their front yard, making paths, goes into our drainage system for the community. The person that came out had a truck. I don't have his name handy. He said, yeah, it does need to be cleaned out. And I said, what about this road? There's also a barricade at the end of that road. And he used to say road ends. Now it's just a piece of 2x4s with some yellow tape or something on it. It was really like a makeshift deal because it had broken. And the water that gets at the end of Speckle Cove on that backs our development, it doesn't go to the lake like the right-hand side does. It goes under in a pipe and comes into Bridgewater Cove. It goes under our road, and then it's supposed to find its way meandering to the lake. The fellow said, we cannot do anything about cleaning the ditch right now. Budget is gone. I think that was like early summer last year. And I noticed in the budget, I thought what I saw when I reviewed it is that the budget amount was the same on the 24 as it was in 23. So evidently that's for cleaning ditches, I believe is the way it was quoted, and maintenance. Meanwhile, on River Road, from the time you turn off of 46, on the side of the road, the grass is this tall. It hasn't been mowed. Where's all our money going? What are you guys doing with the money? What services are we getting or improving upon? Because I haven't seen any. I've been there 20 years this year. Next big problem, our water contamination. I built a house in 03, moved in, and almost since that day, I've had problems with mold in my sink faucets, in the screens, when you turn on the faucet and the stem comes out. And I showed the manager that came out 21, you take a paper towel and rub like that to the bottom of the faucet where water comes out and you brush your teeth and it had mold on it. I'd like to know if anybody up there would be concerned about that at their house. He said, well, and this, I've already called before. This fella actually came out instead of doing a phone call. And he said, yeah, that's really, that's not supposed to be there. And he said, and I showed him the toilets. Not that I'm a bachelor at this time. Toilets all get used. I rotate from one to the other to make sure that the water's circulating. The tank has got mold in it. Then it goes down into the bowl. The bowl gets mold in. I got black streaks coming down. It's water contamination. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I'm going to go down and take he said, I'm going to flush the hydrant. And I want to get a water sample from you. I'm going to send the guy back tomorrow to get a water sample. He went down and flushed the hydrant because it's an L-shaped development. I'm on the first part coming in off the road, and then there's an L, which is Pierpoint. And that heads down, literally down a hill and into and towards the lake. He came back, he said, Mr. Rumplich, he said, you definitely had some problems. He said, you're at the end of the system. He says, so when it gets down there, it has nowhere to go. As far as overtures, usually you stick, he didn't tell me this, but I know a little bit about, usually there's a extension to take the sediment, to take the dirt, the mud. Okay. So he said, I said, the only people that come and do the fire hydrant is
1 minute, sir. Okay,
the,
just give me one, you only have 1 more minute.
I heard. I told him the only people come and drain the hydrants are the fire department. And they're volunteer. He said, no, he said, I'm going to make a special effort to come down, drain these because we need to do so. I said, yeah, you're in charge of the water. And he said, I'll have to go back. He said, I said, where do you get the water from now? It used to come, I thought, from a well here in Jackson. He said, we buy the water from Roanoke Rapids Water Department. And he said, it doesn't do well when you add bleach to it because of the formula they now use, not treated with salt. I mean, bleach. But he said, we're going to have to do so. That's what he told me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, that's all the names I have.
Are there
Is there any others?
any others? Any others? It's your opportunity. Any others? You're listening. Any others? This time I'm going to close the public hearing. We're going back into session with our agenda given. Board members, first we have is the proposed landscape maintenance contract. For Mr. Joseph Walmart. Do I have Mr.
I'm scheduled to present this. Board members, you may recall, on April the 3rd of this year, this board approved a bid by Joseph Richardson Warmack for the mowing of the former Rich Square Creasy School site. Excuse me. And what you have before you is a proposed contract setting out the terms of that agreement, which I drafted. The pertinent terms are which twice per month, Mr. Warmack will be providing landscape services at the Creasy site, which is just over 15 acres of property. He's going to mow the grass, weed eat the grass, trim the shrubs, and pick up all the debris on site. For that, he is being compensated $900 each time. This is a proposed 2-year contract. He is required to keep sufficient insurance and will indemnify the county If anything should go wrong, while he is on on the county's property, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, members, you have any questions you want to ask our attorney about this contract? We had already discussed it. I thought we had approved it. Must-
Bid was approved.
Okay.
The county received several bids and now the actual contract of the approved bid is presented.
Thank you. Well, members, you have any questions you need to ask? Any question?
I just wanted to make sure that this includes, we have a sufficient, significant, excuse me, amount of signage that's growing on the building.
It's my understanding, and Mr. Wheeler, our Public Works, is not with us tonight. It does not include that work.
I can't see landscaping and weed eating when you've got. How can you weed eat if the weeds are growing on the building? The weeds are growing.
I'm happy to take that question back to Mr. Wheeler, but I do recall that issue coming up, and he said that was not a part of the current scope of work.
Unless our grounds people are going to remove that signage, I'm not comfortable.
We can, we bid it and come up with, want to include that. How much more would it be? The only problem I got is a little different than what you thinking. If we're never gonna use the building gonna be torn down. I don't put a whole lot of money in the building. The wind, as long as we got the ground cleared, the building going to be torn down. It just can't be. I just don't see putting a lot of money in the van. That's just me. Okay, I just think that it's keeping it. No, ma'am, you cannot. I tell you what you can do. You can go fill out a form and come back and doing remarks, and we have opened up for remarks. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, but that's the way, that's the order of meeting.
If I live in Mr. Creasy's house next door, and I look out my door and I see the building being taken over by weeds. I understand what we say our possible plans are, because no decision has been actually formally voted on by the board as to what we would do with the building. I just think until we make that decision, and it would be probably a one-time cost to remove that vinage, and then after that, weed eating would take care of any vines that grow, because you would be weed eating up against the building.
I would ask the county manager, please get the maintenance guy to give us a new bid if necessary on what it would take to get the vines off the building. Then this board will make up their mind where they want to spend that money for that. Okay? That will resolve that. We could get that, and we look at the difference in the prices, and we can make up our minds what we want to do. Okay?
Or if he doesn't want to do that, put out a separate bid for removing the overgrowth.
Current contractor bidded a price of $1,000. If the county would remove it, they'll take it from the building itself, but we would have to use our truck and take it to the land site. So it'd be an additional $1,000 one-time fee.
Could I ask that, because grass need cutting now? Is he cutting grass now on this property?
Chairman, and forgive me, let me clarify. This contract is proposed to start with the next fiscal year. So it's
July
July 1.
1. Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. That's 3 weeks from now. 4 weeks from 3 weeks. Board member, what is your pleasure? You tell me what it is you want to do.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just, Mr. Phillips, what was the statement you were speaking about the extra 1,000? I couldn't hear you, sir.
The current vendor is stating the one that bid it, Mr. Womack.
Yes, sir.
He said he can remove the vines for an additional $1,000 one-time fee as long as the county is willing to use our truck and take it to the landfill.
Board members, what is your recommendation? What is-
Excuse me, if we don't remove it with our trucks, it'll be $1,500.
Thank you for the information. What is your pleasure, board members? Board members?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I believe in hearing the information that Mr. Phillips just stated and listening that, is it possible for us to get another bid from, Mr. Womack with an all-inclusive price?
Always possible.
I'm just, because you said 1,000 and then if we use the county's trucks, correct, Mr. Phillips? And then the next component was 1,500 if not, am I correct?
That is correct. And
Thank you, sir.
that's separate from mowing.
This,
So has he already made that as a formal bid then?
Yes, the 900 is the formal bid. But the 1,000 was not included in the bid.
I know it wasn't included in the contract, but that is an official price from him.
Right.
So if it's a one-time thing, then the weeding would maintain it. Then I think we've got all the information we need.
Okay,
clear?
Yeah, you don't want to change your bid to include the 1,000 because that's a one-time separate thing.
Right.
so what you want to do then, Mr. Marlin? What do y'all want to do?
I guess I'm confused now, Mr. Chairman. If you state that one more time, Mr. Phillips, because I did landscaping for 24 years. And so I'm just trying to be on clarity. You're saying,
That $1,000 is not a part of the bid as it stands now. That $900 twice a month is just for the mowing and the weeding and the maintenance. To remove the vines from the building is just a one-time $1,000 fee. Separate from that contract.
separate from this contract.
Yes.
I'm clear.
Well, so it's $1,000 if we done it.
If it's the consensus of the board to add that to the scope of work, since this is a work session and there's no vote being taken on this contract tonight, I'm happy to modify the contract
Well, that's what I was going to.
and run it by
Scope of work.
the Public Works Department and Mr. Warmack and present the board with a modified contract at its next meeting.
That's fair. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Welcome.
Vice Chairman, what is your?
I think the difference between winning bid and the next lowest one was far more than $1,000 and $1,500. So if we're able to add on that piece, and again, a one-time cost, just think for when you take on the property, you're basically a figment of the neighborhood. To be a good neighbor, you want your neighbor to take care of the aesthetics of the property so that your property, even if they're not inhabiting it, you want your property to not be impacted by the view of other non-inhabitants. I don't think this, an attorney, I guess you would be the determining factor. If that difference in price would be substantive, or whatever the word is, I can't get it out right.
Yeah.
Enough
About $1,000, no, it's
to
not.
put anything back out to bid.
No,
That's not required, no.
I didn't think so.
Scope of work, right?
I agree with.
Okay,
We're on the same page.
okay, board members, are we satisfied that we're gonna bring this back to us with the additional $1,000 added one time to take care of the weeds, just $1,000? I thought you were talking about $1,000.
Each time?
Yeah, that's what I was
Once
saying.
you remove it, if you weed it, and it
That
won't
should
be back.
clear.
Check then.
Okay, well, I'm fine with that. Could, do I need a motion, Mr.? I don't need a motion. Okay, thank you. At this time, we
It's
do,
fair.
we do note that on our agenda, we have the Turning Point Workforce Development Board. We have one applicant. Ms. Joyce Buffalo, who has applied, who has given us her application to want to be on that board. Was that the only one you had, Madam, Clerk? Yes. Okay, board members, you have that one. We're gonna vote on tonight, but that's the one that we have. And we'll have it for our next meeting, unless you have some problem. And this requirement, she meet all the requirements of this, that she's gotta be a part of a 501(c) organization. That organization is the CADA. He's a part of CADA. But that made her qualified to be on the workforce board. Any questions?
Chairman Tyner, repeat that last statement you just said, please.
In order for you, the person who want to be on this board,
Mhm.
they have to be a part of a board, a nonprofit board. Okay, and she meets that requirement because CADA is a nonprofit organization. She's part of it.
And just for I recall citizens requesting what the acronyms stand for.
Yeah.
CADA stands for Chornock Area Development Association of North Carolina.
In Rich Square.
It's in Richmond, that's correct.
Any question?
I guess I have a question, but my thing is, do we have anything in our bylaws or procedures that talk about former commissioners asking to be on boards? I'm just asking.
No, ma'am, we do not. And when you are off the board, then you just, as any other citizen, you can apply to be on any board that you so.
Do we have anything in our bylaws that state how many boards how many boards a person can be a member of?
No, we do not.
Yes, sir.
If this board desire to add that to our policy, then we can certainly consider that.
Yes, sir.
There's nothing on record right now that says a board member, a former county employee can be on any board that we have, that we select them, vote on them to be on. And I'll entertain that if you want us to go back and study that we can come up with that as a policy.
I wish for us to do so, sir.
County manager, another task that we want to make sure that we fulfill is to look at our policy and see if it is that we can determine if previous board member can be on another board. At least I know by law we can't do it, but we can have it in our policy. Any other question? Any other question? Another question, folks? All right, at this time, as we shall continue on, let us now have our health director please come and talk to us about a rate increase.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good
Chairman
evening.
Tyner. I'm coming to you tonight to ask for a proposed rate increase for Dr. Singer, who is our OBGYN who provides maternal health and family planning services for us. He's provided medical services for these two programs since 2016 at a rate of $125. And he has now requested that be increased $25 more to the rate of $150 beginning July 1. And there are funds allocated in the budget, yes.
So that. Well, members, do y'all have any questions? You need to ask the health director. About any question?
No questions.
No question? And certainly we will have that our next meeting for approval from this board. Okay, they have no question. Okay?
Thank you.
We're just glad that we can get a doctor come
too.
to Northampton County
Amen.
and be with the health department,
Amen.
part-time or any kind. We're just glad. Without us having a hospital in the county, it is really hard to have a resident who's a MD in our county. So thank you. Thank you. Tell him thank you. Board members, you have before you next is a proposal for CFL, that's the environmental contract amendment. Before you, county manager, you wanna tell us what you have in that area?
Excuse me. Yes, you have before you it's in a contract addendum to extend the current GFL contract for 2 years. We have this service out on an RFP, and we got one response back from the current vendor, and we had about 20 plus questions that was raised, and going through the questions and going through the RFP, going through the current contract. There's items in the current RFP that I believe overcomplicates the process, and we have one other bidder that's coming out of Virginia, I believe, out of Petersburg, Virginia, that's interested. We don't have their bid yet, but I believe it serves us better to take this RFP off the market now, extend this contract, because it would be to our advantage. We would be able to keep prices the same. There would be no rate increase during this extension period. And then we can go back and strip down that RFP and make sure that it's I think a little bit more user friendly and possibly have more competition than just one or two service providers looking at it.
Well, as you've heard from the county manager talking about picking up our trash in the county, same company doing so. I'll just say for the offset that if you got a company that's going to work with us and not increase price this day and time, we better consider them but short term right now. I just my thinking, because every vendor that we have gone up with cost of, number one is labor. And everybody know in our budget, certainly that we got, what the biggest one is labor. People who working with the price we gotta pay for them to work. So here it is before you have an opportunity to, you want to go back and I think his expire on July 1. Go back in the next few days and see what the guy from Virginia want to do, or we can extend this one until we come up with a better bid proposal.
Right.
We're in June. I don't think it's gonna take us 2 years to rectify a bad RFP. I know that there are citizens that have called about trash pickup issues. I've actually had to email maybe 3 or 4 weekends on Saturday mornings. Trash wasn't picked up on Friday. It was becoming, I would get an email back from the person on sometimes AM, early AM on Saturday morning. It didn't come by. Here's us. Well, the trash is out there. The people, they call me and make sure they'll send a picture that they put their trash out to make sure that the next time the company doesn't say their trash wasn't out there. And it's several people in a neighborhood that the trash is not getting picked up. It happened in mine, and I put it out on Thursday night to make sure it's out there before Friday morning. And they'll come back and get it on Monday. And then the citizen says, Monday's gonna be our regular pickup day, let us know. We'll judge our trash accordingly and not have it out there at the side of the road. But I just think that December would be a more reasonable extension of this year then to extend the contract out 2 years. It's gotten better. But it's still, and I think when we went with this company, there was another company on the table. And I know I've been to commissioners' state meetings and there've been trash collection companies there, vendors there, vending at those. So maybe the County Commissioners Association has those names of those companies that we can send a more streamlined RFP to. I just want us to do our due diligence to the citizens who have complained and wish that we had a better service for them. I understand that keeping it the same, but if the service doesn't improve, I'd rather pay a little more and make sure my trash is out than the company not be able to pay people to work to be able to get the trash out. I want to share that, so we're in the deliberation process that there have been citizen complaints about the trash. I've seen it on the Woodlands Facebook page. And again, citizens have emailed my county email. And I've tried to intervene for them, but I shouldn't have to do that. Should be regularly picked up. Or at least communicate it like we mentioned before. Communicate with citizens when there's a truck issue breaking down or don't have someone to drive because the driver is sick, but they're not getting the communication. And if you all remember, we used to have those, this was prior to you, but we used to have those meetings and we had them come in and share those same concerns. It's like they're starting back again.
I believe that this company, the only contract they would give us 2 years.
That is correct. I did request an extension until December of this year. And that was denied, and what I was told, well, we can just wait and put our bid in. And, you know, whatever the price is, that's the price we will bid. Or we can extend it for 2 years for you guys. Normally it's 4 years on our current contract and keep prices the same. So
Yeah, when the timeline was that you realized that this RFP
it
was
just came up on last week.
good.
Last week.
I've been asking about when
It just came up last week. The issue just came up last week.
Want to re-advertise it? Is what you think?
Well, if our citizens aren't gonna have any trash, it's like we have it over the coals. July 1, people won't have anyone to pick up the trash. That's an issue. I just hate to find out on June 5th.
That we didn't get anybody with substantial bid. It came back with us with a quote. Only one that gave us a quote of any kind was the one that we already have.
That's right. And just to reiterate, there were a lot of questions. The questions were answered. But I believe based on the questions, if we modify the current RFP, that we might get more bidders. There's no guarantee to that. I just think if we can simplify the process, we might get more bidders. We might not. It might wind up with the same bidder. I'm familiar with GFL. We had the same problem with them for 20 years because they're just I don't want to say they're a monopoly, but they basically monopolize this entire area. And we, like I said, there's one other company out of Virginia that's interested. I don't know what their pricing is. You can't really look at that until the bid is received. We can leave it as is and go with the two bidders if the company out of Virginia bids. And then whatever the case is, we have to take it at that point.
If we would hit it out, how many more days would you have? Take us to bid it out. See the bids. Can we do that by July 1?
I believe we gave a 30 days on this bid.
If how much?
30 days.
But they've already seen the bid, Scott.
in all candor, I mean, I don't think that's a reasonable enough time to expect to resubmit a RFP. And what if you do not receive any bids or adequate bids? Just in my opinion, in my experience, it's too close to June 30th.
This thing called between rock and hard place. Where we are. Well, man, what you wanna do, all I do is preside. Tell me what you want. What you wanna do? What you wanna do? We gotta make some decision tonight. Something need to be done. When the county manager go and redo it. It might take more than 30 days. What you gonna do July 1? We ain't got no. Started on it too late and should have. Earlier. The enterprise. I'm waiting, board members. I'm waiting on you all.
Oh, we're thinking on, Mr. Chairman. So when you sit there and say an RFP, when we're saying an RFP is running out, I mean, generally speaking, Mr. Phillips, and when you talk about RFP, so if we put it out for bid, is a contractual component that we can do a monthly component with GFL until we put an RFP out. I know we've done that with not as an accountant level, but in the school system several times. So is that an option?
They're not willing to do that. They're willing to either put their bid in and we take the price that they bid at that time, or extend it for 2 years and we keep the current price with no increase.
Are we required to have 3 bids?
No, you're not.
No.
Clear.
Put it out to bid because of the amount.
I mean, let's be clear, we did receive a response to the current RFP, which is very comprehensive and seeking better terms for the county. But GFL is generally your only provider around here, and they know that. This is one of the reasons why we are where we are, in my opinion.
Clear.
Yeah, they have the infrastructure in place already and that gives them the advantage.
It does.
It was better before the buyout.
Oh, yes.
Well, I'm waiting on you to tell me what it is you desire to do. We'll vote on the matter and get.
Tonight, right, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, we're not voting, but we need to let the county manager know, so we'll know at the next meeting that we are gonna vote on it.
Well, what I just heard was that there's really nothing we can do. I mean,
Basically. We don't have.
Whatever we do, make a motion on
no motions tonight, right?
it. Okay, give us the direction so we'll know which direction we need.
Can we remove that renewal? That automatic renewal
Yeah, what you gonna do?
under section 8, they're saying that they can automatically renew for successive 2 years if we don't give them notice 90 days in advance after the 2025 date.
So tell me what you want. I mean, I still don't understand.
Remove that sentence. It says contract will renew for successive 2-year terms unless either party gives notification of non-renewal at least 90 days.
2 years from now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's, can I just, if we decide to do nothing tonight, the bid is due on Friday. We'll receive the bids and then we have to accept the bids as is.
We're not voting tonight. There's nothing we can do.
I know we're not, but if we decided that we were going to take this extension, then I can talk to the companies directly. But if we do nothing, if we say, well, we're not sure, and we indicate that we're not sure going into the next meeting, they're going to submit their bids and whatever that price is, that's going to be their final price. And we'll compare that to the vendor. If that vendor in Virginia does decide to bid, and whatever that price is, that's what we'll be left with, because we have to provide the services on July 1st.
I go back to my question. Can we remove that sentence?
County manager, county attorney, you got to answer that.
Certainly, it's a matter of negotiation. We can go right back to them with it.
Thank you.
County attorney and the county manager. Go and negotiate and come back with what it is you recommend, okay? All right. Got it, county manager?
Yes, sir.
County attorney? Yes, sir. Those jobs, somebody got to do it. At this time, we're gonna have finance.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have several items that I will be presenting for your consideration on this evening. I will first start with budget amendment number 42. This is on behalf of the Sheriff's Department. And this is for funding received in the amount of $984.72 on behalf of insurance reimbursement. Next, I will be presenting another budget amendment number 43. This is also on behalf of the Sheriff's Department. And this is just carryover grant funds in the amount of $84,269.66. This concludes the budget amendment portion.
Board members, what is your pleasure?
No vote.
No vote? Okay, put it on the agenda for next. Consent agenda.
Thank you.
All right.
I will next proceed with the Northampton County Project Ordinance for the Northampton County Sewer Line Extension. Be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of Northampton County, North Carolina, that pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 159, Section 13.2, the following project ordinance is hereby adopted. Section 1, the project authorized is the design, permitting, and construction inspections for the proposed lift station or stations and force main along River Road in Northampton County, North Carolina, further referred to as the Northampton County Sewer Line Extension Project. Section 2, the officers of this unit are hereby directed to proceed with the project to increase tax revenue for Northampton County, develop the land facing the lake in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, assist with failing septic systems, and give Northampton County the potential to form regional partnerships with Warren and other neighboring counties. Section 3, the revenues for the above project cost is anticipated to be available to complete this project from USDA, state, and federal grant resources. Section 4, the finance officer is hereby directed to maintain within the project fund sufficient specific detailed accounting records to satisfy federal regulations. Section 5, funds may be reimbursed to the general fund for prior project expenses. Section 6, the finance officer is directed to report on a quarterly basis on the financial status of the project to the governing board. Section 7, copies of this project ordinance shall be furnished to the budget officer, the clerk to the governing board, and the finance officer for direction in carrying out this project. Adopted this 5th day of June, 2023.
Commissioner Tyner, if you don't mind, I would like to add, just for the board's edification. When you do a resolution, the resolution by statute has to be done before the project is incurred. You will have a an audit finding if you ever expend a penny before you do a resolution. So the resolution follows general statutes. You have to do it before you initiate the project. And the other advantage and benefit is that you state in your resolution that any monies that you spend out of the general funds, for example, if you have to do any type of feasibility studies, engineering costs, upfront, those upfront costs that you normally have with projects, you can get reimbursed from your grant funding or loan. If you don't have that language in your resolution, you will lose that money. You will not be reimbursed in your general fund. So that's why we have to do that in advance. If you do the resolution after the fact, it's putting the horse before the cart, or vice versa, I should say. The cart before the horse. You would get fine, well, not fine, but it would be a citation on your audit. It would be an audit finding. Thank you.
This project will also be under the water sewer for Northampton County. What you call them? Enterprise. This will be enterprise fund to be used for this project. In other words, enterprise funds is the water and sewer has its own fund. Water and sewer has its own fund. It's not a part of the county's budget as far as tax is concerned. The sewer system, water system must pay for themselves. Let me say it one more time. It's not coming out of our taxpayers' money for these systems. This is another accounting that we have in our county. By law, it's called the Water Enterprise for Water and Sewer. This water and sewer, USDA will require before they will give us grant of the funding, that they have enough hookup on this system, the USDA gonna get their money back. Not only that, USDA set for us the rate that we've got to charge. It's not in our hands, folks. This is USDA. When you get their money, they're gonna tell you, we just went up with a water rate. We just went up with one. And the reason we went up with one was because the USDA said it was too low. That's for the whole county. The whole county. Please understand, this has nothing to do with our fund that you paying taxes. This gonna have something to do with people who use the system. And the system that's coming up to Gaston, there are already 100+ systems already signed up for this system. Just want you to know, they've already done their homework. They've already done what they need to do to make sure that this system pays for itself. I need not to get in discussion. Just wanted you to know where the funds.
Can I ask a question? Section 2. And this is, please help me understand. It's coming from enterprise fund.
Yes.
Then what is the increased tax revenue part? And then when is the sewer line extension projected to start if funded? And I know USDA, I know it's government, I know right now with everything going on, it's kind of, they're not sending out new money in a lot of areas right now out of Washington. So when is it projected to start? And could we wait until we are closer to the point of knowing that we're gonna have that funding? Like, you see a budget from DC and you know that the money's in the budget for some projects, you might not necessarily have the money, but is there a way that section 2 kind of puzzled me? And
I don't know how you do anything without a vision, without a plan of getting it done. You just, I mean, you just don't, that's why they require us to have this resolution. So not only that, when we apply for the funds, they want this resolution on record. Now, this line will not only be by USDA, but the state of North Carolina has an interest in this line. And I have been told, state of North Carolina, the state of North Carolina is very much interested in in rural development and what we're gonna do with this line, along with what we plan to do with phase 6 of our water, which we're gonna start, by the way, and then I'm gonna tell you my announcement, Mount Zion Church Road, and next month, we plan to start putting that water line down. This resolution, same what resolution we had to have for that water line. We did that though last year before we started, before we knew we had it. That's the reason why it's there. Surprise. You Miss Fulton, who knew all about the water line, telling us not to do a resolution.
wait, don't put words in my mouth, sir. What I asked for was clarification about increasing tax revenue versus the money coming from USDA, which is what we have been talking about as a board. We have been talking about the USDA funding. And I was asking about the increased tax revenue because it's basically putting all of that all in there. I'm very aware of the project. I know there was meetings out there to meet with some citizens. I understand that's how some of the numbers got up. But I just wanted to ask about section 2 about the increase. And I'm very aware and I'm very much in support of the failing septic systems that people cannot afford to repair themselves out there. I'm aware that we need to do that. What I'm asking is, when is it projected to start? And if we could do something, if we've had a promise of the USDA water funding, putting that language in there, if they're going to start, they're going to have to be paid. And if the USDA grant doesn't come, then how does that work for our citizens? I just want to be clear before I vote next time on what I'm actually voting on, because the section 2 did throw me aback from what we have been basically looking at section 3, the USDA funding. That's basically been what we've been talking about the whole time. So that's all. And I know sometimes we pay and we get reimbursed, but in this sense, if you don't have the grant, you don't have a promise of a reimbursement. So I want to make sure that when we do put it out, that we all are on the same page about where the money's going to come from.
The money's gonna come from the people that's gonna pay, and it's gonna make an increased amount of revenue we're gonna receive.
And that's on your water bill, but not
That's
on the
right.
taxes.
That's right, on the water.
And that's what I'm saying, that increased tax revenue part is what I question. So I just want to make sure.
We need to take that out.
We can, I mean, this is just a recital. I think the way I read it, Commissioner Faulkner, is that the construction of the sewer line will basically spur development or increase further, which will then lead to increased tax revenue. But I'm happy.
Maybe it's the language in it. Maybe it's the language in it that threw me. That's all I'm saying.
The wording
The
is
wording
confusing,
is a little confusing.
because I do know from going to county commissioner school that water and sewer projects are required, like he said earlier, to be self-sufficient and not part of the county budget. And so they pay off the fees.
And so it's just so that this ordinance is clear.
Oh, will you all please be quiet, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
So what this ordinance, it seems like what section 2 was attempting to say is that if we move forward with this could be a economic development opportunity for our county down the road to increase or encourage more people to come and be, to be on the lake or ride on the lake or live on the lake. Because there are other partners in the area. It's just that one sentence it seems a little confusing to me. And I understand what you meant, listening to you, is that this project itself has the potential to increase revenue for the county, but not so much that it's increases taxes.
I didn't draft it. I'm happy to get it revised however the board chooses.
I do think the wording does imply to the public that we're gonna raise your taxes.
We're in that season that if we can be as clear as we can, that's not what this is saying.
I will get with finance and revise that. And I'd also suggest revising the date from June 5th to our next meeting.
Yes.
All right, you got it, attorney? Okay. May we continue on now? We ask for our county manager. Financial report. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting that each day.
No problem.
Okay,
Thank you. Next, I would like to provide you all with the monthly financial report for the month of May. The rule of thumb for the cumulative spend was to stay below 91.7% in expenditures. The general fund was at 27.2 million at 82%. Department of Social Services, 5.1 million at 71%. The Enterprise Fund, 2.5 million at 82%. Garysburg Water and Sewer, 447,000 at 58%. The reason that this percentage is lower is due to 400,000 was planned prior for tank repairs. However, it was later determined that it was not needed. And last, solid waste at 2.2 million, and that is at 94%. And the reason for the higher percentage is due to a blanket PO that was issued for annual curbside pickup. So that concludes the monthly financial report for May. Thank you.
thank you. Now, county manager.
I don't have any additional comments other than thank you to everyone for coming out. I do appreciate your comments. I listened to the comments and I'm sure, and I can say with confidence that the board listens to your comments. And we appreciate those comments. We will look at them, evaluate them, and use them as we best can to continue to manage and operate the county as efficiently and effectively as possible. Thanks again for coming out. God bless.
This time, board members, starting with you, Taylor.
Like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you for your comments. We can use those comments to grow as a board and to problem solve, and they're very appreciated. So thank you for coming out tonight.
Yep. Next meeting. Yes, ma'am. Public comments, okay? It was.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just say good evening to everyone. And again, thank you for coming out. We appreciate your comments. It's how we keep the open lines of communication and to do better. So thank you.
Thank everybody for coming out and participating in your local government.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Just as everyone else has said, thank you for coming. We do listen, we do hear. Might not always be on the exact same page. We might not always agree on the exact same issues, but we can all agree that we want what's best for our county and for the citizens. Whether you come to a meeting or you don't, we want what's best for you all. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, all of you for coming and joining with us. Let me say that I did have a telephone call today that's really important to us. I learned that the amount of money that we have spent to purchase the land for the new school, it's in our budget this year. I learned from Raleigh today, there's a possibility they're going to refund us that a big amount of that money back to Northampton County. I just got that today because they're looking at how we can, I tell you how it's going to be done. It's going to be done on the fact that the County Board of Education will be paying, we'll be paying taxes on the new school as far as materials and everything that's in it. They're looking at a way that all the taxes anybody will pay on that new school will be reimbursed to Northampton County Commission. I just want to say to all of you that we're doing everything that we possibly can to save every bit of money that we possibly can. And I've heard tonight, and I cannot leave without saying, I hear you talking about the budget increase, folks, that we can't help from having an increase in our budget. We just cannot have it. This is the land, this is the time we living in. If we don't have it, then I want you to know our emergency situation would be, it'll just be all out of whack because of the fact we can't find no worker. Everything that we doing cost, just like everybody else. And all I'm saying to you all is the fact there's so many uncertainties out there. Uncertainties every day. We got to make sure as a board that we do have funds to take care of those things that we really don't know. It's just like at your house, everything has gone up. I want you to know, all of you who won't do and our company, you all just will look out. It's going up another 25%. That's just right before the board right now, that everybody's light bill is going up 25%. So what I'm trying to say with the county, likewise, in order for us, I'm talking the necessities of our county to keep it at the level it is right now. There's no way that we're not going to have to look at more revenues for the county. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. We learn from you. We will take that all what you said and strive. And remember, we're trying to do what's best for Northampton County. At this time, board members, could I have a motion that we would adjourn?
Sorry, we have a brief closed session for attorney-client privilege matter.
But I have a motion that we put meeting be adjourned to a closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-311.11A3 attorney-client privilege.
Second.
We probably said that we're going to closed session. All in favor, nobody use sign aye.
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 Aye. Ron Taylor.
Ayes have it, motion is carried.